I filed a lawsuit in Edmonton this week that might be of interest to you if you want to fight back against the new left-wing tactic called deplatforming. You know what deplatforming is, right? It's when leftists who disagree with you get you canceled. When they bully someone like a university or a public library into canceling a speech from someone they don't like. It's happening more and more. Even the mayor of Toronto tried to bully the Toronto Public Library into canceling a speech by a women's rights activist.
The library has its own policy with respect to when people should and should not be able to rent rooms on their premises. They have taken the decision in this case that this particular person should be able to give their talk in a library building. I don't think it's appropriate for politicians to substitute their judgment for actually making these decisions, because we have a duly appointed library board and we have library management who oversee a written policy in this regard. I simply indicated I was disappointed at that decision. My office asked the library to reconsider the decision.
It's happening a lot, and it happened to me last month. I rented theaters to have book signings for my new best-selling political book called The Libranos. I love those theaters. I've gone to them for years. I've done Rebel News events there before, as you can see in these tweets. From a couple years back, we had sold out events. The staff said they were great. Everything was fine. I love those places. So I rented those same theaters again in Calgary and Edmonton. But this time, a group of bullies swarmed the theater owner and threatened him with dire consequences if he didn't breach his contract with us. I tried to give him courage. I talked to him on the phone. I gave him a pep talk. I hired private security at my own expense. I made sure there were plenty of police there too, but the owner caved into the mob. When it came to the day of the events, he locked the doors on us and the staff hid inside with the lights off. It was pitiful. So I had to give a speech outside the theaters, and it was cold, so we walked to a nearby pub in each city to finish the book signing. By the way, in each city, only a single protester actually showed up. But look, I'm not going to be a victim here. I just refuse to be. I did nothing wrong. They did something wrong. We don't ban books. We don't do the equivalent of a book burning. That's what canceling a book signing is like, really. We don't do that in Canada, especially when I had a contract with the owner. I paid him in full in advance. He actually hasn't even refunded that money yet. So I sued. I just filed a lawsuit against the theater owner for breach of contract. Now, that's pretty ordinary, but I did something that I don't think has ever been done before that I know of, and that is I sued all the people who bullied the theater owner into breaching the contract. You can see some of their names here, and some of the people we don't know their names yet. We've put them down for now as John Doe, but others we do know. Nancy Lavelle, who is a professor at the University of Alberta. Jessica Littlewood, who used to be an NDP MLA. Jim Story, he's an activist at a left-wing pressure group called Progress Alberta. And other names too. We'll find out more names through the discovery process of the lawsuit. We'll get copies of the emails that pressured the theaters to cancel. We'll add those names to the lawsuit too. We're suing these people for inducing the breach of contract. They knew we had a contract with the theater. They helped cause the breach of the contract, and we suffered losses. We lost thousands of dollars because of it. That's against the law, not just for the theater owner, but for those who bullied him. That's what's new here. We're not letting the mob go. We've identified members of the mob, and we're suing them. Inducing breach of contract isn't a new kind of a lawsuit. It's often used, for example, if some talented entertainer has an exclusive contract with one record company, and another record label tries to get them to break that contract and switch over to them. Usually it's a commercial dispute. As far as I know, this is the first time this law has been used against people who induce the breach of contract just for censorship and bullying reasons. I'd like to invite you to read the whole lawsuit. It's written in pretty plain English. You don't need to be a lawyer to understand it. In addition to breach of contract, there are some other things we're suing for, including defamation, because they said atrocious things about us, false things, including, believe it or not, that I'm a Nazi, even though I'm Jewish. We're using other grounds too, including conspiracy and unlawful interference. The breach of contract cost us about $20,000 in direct costs. when they didn't let us in the theater. So we're suing the theater owner and all these deplatformers for that money. And for defamation. Sorry, you just can't publicly call me a Nazi. It's not true. By the way, learn some history. It was the Nazis who were the book burners. We're also asking the court for aggravated damages. If you have time, I really recommend you read this part of the lawsuit. You can see the whole lawsuit at stopdeplatforming.com. This lawsuit was written by our great free speech law firm in Edmonton. See, this wasn't some commercial dispute like the two record labels fighting over an entertainer. The purpose here was censorship, to infringe on our country's political freedom, freedom of the press, the right to have a debate during an election campaign, the right to have a free exchange of ideas. I think that's actually worse than just a quarrel over money. These deplatformers were interfering with the building blocks of our liberal democracy, and in the middle of an election, no less. Sorry, that stops now. I want my money back for the theater rental and for all the other money we wasted trying to fix this problem, but it's not about $20,000 for those costs or the other damages we're seeking. That's not what this is about. This is about letting the world know you can't do this anymore. Not to me, not to anyone. I truly hope that anyone and everyone who is unlawfully deplatformed sues. Not just the guy who rips up their contract, but the bullies who pressed that guy to do it. The theater owner told me the threats against him were so bad he was literally losing sleep over it. Don't you think someone has to tell those bullies they're wrong? I really can't believe we have a former politician and a professor on the list of people who just don't get it. But hopefully this court case will remind them of the importance of debate. Let me close on a sentimental note. You know, when I was growing up, especially when I was a student in university, people who disagreed with me, well, they ignored me, or they debated me, or they had their own events to rebut me. I remember university in the 90s being that way. I loved it. We all debated and heckled and argued, but we were actually sort of friends. But this whole deplatforming cancel culture, that's new, and it's unhealthy for the whole society. It's bullying, obviously, and it's unfair, but it actually stops us from talking to each other as a country. I mean, it's unlikely that hardcore left-wingers and right-wingers would suddenly change their minds by attending a debate with the other side. But at least it would remind us all that we're all citizens together. We're all trying to resolve our differences peacefully and hopefully through an exchange of ideas. That's what university was like for me. The debating enforced some sort of mutual civility. You know, the concept of a public square. I don't know if you know this, but my debating partner back in University of Calgary was actually Naheed Nenshi, who's now the left-wing Muslim mayor of Calgary, and I was a right-wing Jew, and we were debating partners. Can you believe that? That's what it used to be like before deplatforming. Not anymore. That's the worst part of cancel culture. We don't even engage with each other anymore. We don't even try to convince our neighbors. Instead of friends arguing over politics for hours, we just unfriend people. That's cancel culture. I don't like it. So we filed the lawsuit against these bullies. It's probably going to cost us a lot more to sue than anything we might win at trial. Just to research the law here and put together this statement of claim cost us $4,700 already. That's our first bill. I've been through enough of these to know that a trial where we're suing a dozen defendants is going to take at least a week in court. And that and all the preparation, it's probably going to be $100,000 to get through it. Obviously, we're not doing this to make money. We're doing it to stop deplatforming in Canada. Against us, against anyone, against you maybe. If you want to read this lawsuit for yourself, go to stopdeplatforming.com. It's right on there. And if you think it's a good idea and if you want to help, you can chip in right there on the page to help us cover our costs. $10, $100, whatever you can. I tell you, we need the help, and I'd be very grateful. Thanks. Go to stopdeplatforming.com. I think that maybe we can help change the culture. Thanks. I don't want to let the bullies get away with it, the bullies who forced the theater to breach the contract. That's against the law too, you know, so we're suing them, the bullies. To learn more, go to stopdeplatforming.com, and if you agree with what we're doing, please chip in a few bucks to help us pay the lawyer.